Good morning. How are you? Is my voice clear?
I can see you and easier. Yeah, that's an
Yes.
easier.
Yeah. Yeah. So is my voice
um,
all right?
yes, yes.
Okay. Okay. All right.
It's
Good.
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 It's
All
good.
right. Good. Nice to see you. So how was your weekend?
Yeah, it's going well so far. I actually made significant progress in just one
Oh.
day.
Okay. Congratulations. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. All right.
At least I
So
sort of figured out the process. I think the major part I want to implement today is now the network part.
okay. Okay.
But
Nice.
let me just share my screen.
Yes. Yes. Let's jump into it. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
This one. Okay, so
So do you know if
can
Herman's
you see
joining
my
today?
screen?
Is Herman joining today, or you're not sure?
Sorry, I just want to switch on this mode.
I don't think he's sent a message. So
Oh, so I think today is a public holiday.
I see, I see.
Not
Okay, all
public.
right.
Tomorrow is for a public holiday, but
I
for
see.
most
All right,
companies,
all right. Okay,
it is possible.
okay, all right. So yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
Anyways,
So thanks
so
for
one.
joining. Yeah.
No, thank you for joining, and apologies for the delay. I was struggling to connect a little bit earlier. Anyways, so one thing I got help with, or should I say, the very first important thing is basically when you say run an object in Python, the whole idea behind this initialization is to initialize the device. I mean the the identity of the device, like on startup. So as you run the startup, the idea is just assign this. So this is like the first thing that happens when you sort of run this class, and it basically assigns this values, the ID, the channel, the message, and the idea is we always know that every node would always have its own matching and publish mode, which is
Hmm.
every node would have its identity, every node would have its
Okay.
channel, and every node would have some sort of payload structure or system in the message format. We don't know what the format is. We just know that there's a message. So for now, we're just leaving it as a placeholder. So now the idea is when it's in publish mode, you want the reference. So I'm referencing these things: the ID, the channel, and the message, and I'm basically sending that to the connector IO class, which is supposed to handle connections. And the idea is, so this is to initialize the connection, the connector IO, which I don't think I used to do in the past.
Okay.
And
Okay.
then, you want to send the identity that we created here, you want to send it to the matcher and then just return P node. Uh, Now, initially, I created the subscriber object here, but it was creating too much of a confusion, and maybe you can help with that because
Okay.
we needed a way to reference it as subscription, and we needed to reference as a subscriber as well, because from a connector perspective, it doesn't really care what it's receiving, right? It doesn't care if I'm
Right.
receiving IP and channel or IP channel and message. And when we're making subscription requests, remember we're just sending it two variables and not three. And that sort of created a bit of a clash. So what we did was we just created a different class of an object. And in theory, you should be able to run this whole code on one device where also we initialize the identity. So I'm literally creating two. So let me show you here. In my generator, I am creating nodes for sub, which is sending to the subscriber, and nodes for the publisher, which is sending to the publisher, right? ID channel message, subscriber ID channel. So the simulation is structured so that I sent in a bunch of random data for the publisher to manage, and a bunch of subscriber data for this to manage. So again, it does the same thing, except this time it initializes the ID and the channel, because I'm only sending two things: the ID and the channel. And also the in the function to subscribe, I'm basically saying, okay, collect this ID and channel and basically send it connector.send. So it's similar to that, connector.send. I just used like a simpler approach, but it's the same. It's doing the same thing where you're saying, send the ID I receive and send the channel I receive. And because the none, remember, it's expecting a third parameter. So there is a none attached to it. And the none
Okay.
basically is saying, okay, that yes, you're receiving three things, but there's nothing sent on the message part. So that is again, and I do know that you said you don't want the connector doing any sort of processing in terms of checking if the SIM mode is true. I mean,
Right,
sorry,
right.
if the message is none. But
Yeah.
um, I'm not sure. Like I said, this is just a placeholder. Maybe there's a better way to approach this where the connector does not necessarily check if I'm receiving anything on the message channel. Uh, but so what I did now, also I created a handler object as well. So the whole idea behind the handler is to handle incoming messages or received messages rather, and the connector also does that. So in the receive function, this it's receiving an IP, it's receiving a channel, and it's receiving a message. And then the idea is, if the sim mode is true or active, which is for the simulation mode, you know, you want to input from node import handler, right? And then handler IP channel. So I'm basically saying whatever IP or channel or message I receive, basically send it to the handle response function. And then in the handle response function, I want to save this message to a list or a dictionary, which I initialize here into responses. So it has its own container to just saved, received, or any message it receives or that specific IP receives, it basically sends to it. Now on the matcher side, the idea now is the check basically that is going on here is if you find out that the message is none, so it means it's a subscription request. So send a subscription request to the matcher, right? Else send a pub request. It means this is not none. It means there's a message or
Okay.
there's a payload there, and then send to pub request. And if we check here, again, I did it similar to the way I did the node. So the matcher basically initializes, again, one of the things I've been thinking of is I think I have to, I need to confirm from Anisio, but once I call this, I'm guessing this already creates an identity in memory for the matcher. And the idea is, initialize the identity, the matcher is already created. This is under the assumption that it already is created and it's receiving, the ID, it's receiving the channel, it's receiving the message, right? And then whatever is received, that's what is sort of being passed into the sub request list. So when I say send, sorry, if the message is none, basically send it to the sub request list. So I'm basically saying, something similar to what we had the last time, but just saying, send the message that you received there to the dictionary, everything and append. So you have like a subscription request list. And if I check here exactly what we had in the past, where we had, a list of subscribers, sorry, there's like 10 values. uh, oh, if you notice, this was, I made sorry, I'm deviating a bit, but so this was to basically track to make sure that the nodes are created, different instances of the node. It's not like the same node, which was what was going on in the past. But now this is the list node one, node two, and if you notice the identities in memory are different. Right. Anyways, I'm going back to this. So the same thing. So with the pub request now, the idea is okay. So when I receive this pub request, I basically can't do the same matching process we had in the past, which is to check the channels. And sorry, let me make that sub message. Yes. So it's to check the channel, you know, um, perform the matching process, and if there's no match, or and then basically forward the request to the next matcher. And then the idea is sub ID, pub message. It should be sub channel. Sorry, CHN. Aha. So if the match is successful, or sorry, if a match is found rather, send this response to that. I mean, send the response function, call this response function, which in this case, what it does is basically sends the response, the sub ID. So the relevant ID is basically creating it. So in our case, I think I need to change this to IP rather than ID. And then pub message, and then
Okay.
send it to the receiver part of
Okay.
this, right? And then the receiver part sort of forwards that message back to the node, and then it sort of saves to the list. So if I run this, let me just close this and run properly for one instance. Flip. What? Sorry, what's going on here? ID, channel, message, publish. Sorry, what's going on here? Okay, this is giving me errors again, but it's fine. I'll sort it out.
What was it running correctly before, or was it running?
No. So before I didn't activate that send part.
Okay.
So now it's okay. There. So the sending, something is wrong with the sending. I need to figure out why it's not, but it's fine. I'll figure it out. That's easy stuff.
All right. Okay. But they executed, right?
But yeah, it's executing. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
let me make this 2 so that it is sort of easy.
So was the execution result what you expected
Yes.
in terms of finding the match?
Yes, it's finding the match as usual. So it's the same process. It sort of generates the list first. Crap. Sorry. I'm gonna make it 3 nodes so that we can sort of see the 3 things. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Yes. So these are the pub, random data. So it basically sends this. This is the matcher sort of saving the requests as they come in, like one by one. These are the subscriptions. So you have 3 subscription requests, 1, 2, 3, right? Now you have this. In this case, this is what we did. We're basically saying, new list. Where are you? Yeah. So show the the identity of the new of the node instance, basically. So sub one, and if you sub one is basically creating a new instance for every node. So sub one, or so should I say sub 1A or node A, node B. Sorry. If you notice, the 3 objects are different, which was very important. It wasn't like this before because I didn't initialize it first before calling the subscribe function. Anyway, so if you know, so there's a request. This is the node. So in the matching process, it gets the subscription request 1, right? Then it checks. Okay, it checks the subscription list. Does this match? If yes, I will receive this message. Right. If the checks the second one, there's no match. Checks the third one, no match. So ignore. Right. So node pub request. I think that's the receive. Not sorry. So I'm trying to figure out where this is coming from. I have to track that.
Okay. All right. It's fine. All right. I think it's good. Okay. All right. So yeah, Victor. So I think maybe let me just clarify some part of the code. All right.
All right.
Okay. Well, I think first it's you got the I think the intended result. Okay, that which is definitely a breakthrough. All right. So I mean, as long as you have some subscribers, right, and some publishers,
Yeah.
and the subscribers are properly received
Oh,
the public, I mean, the subscribers are properly receiving the publications. That is good.
yes.
Okay, all right. So it seems like that is what you have achieved, right, so far.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, all right. I do have a question though, which is
Okay.
it seems like when you are sending something, right, from the
Mm.
publisher, it is done so through the connector IO, right?
Yes.
Okay, through this object, which is good. Okay, which is
Okay.
actually the network layer. Okay,
Yeah.
that is the network layer.
Mm.
However, it seems like it is doing the delivery through a matcher object. Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so I do see a matcher component or object within the connector IO. Okay,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
then within the matcher, is there also a reference to another connector IO object?
Yes.
Okay.
So,
Do you see
um,
there may be some potential issue?
like as you were actually discussing, I think I found, I mean, perhaps the way to have gone about this was to, instead of saying connector IO, there's like a receiver object kind of thing, and then sender sort of class
Okay.
somewhere here,
Yes.
something sort of separate.
Right. So let me just quickly feedback on this point. All right.
Okay.
This is, well, from a programming perspective, this is regardless of your actual logic, whether you're
Mm,
doing a PubSub or something else.
yeah.
Basically, whenever you have an object referencing another object, say object A referencing object B, right? But yet you have object B also referencing object A, okay? This creates a cyclic reference,
Okay.
okay? Okay. And
Yeah.
in general, this is not good. Okay. I mean, in general. However, in advanced object-oriented programming, such thing is allowed. That, as you can see, definitely your code runs, right? There's no
Mm,
problem with the code. It's because a lot of the pointer reference are generated on the fly. Okay,
okay.
so it allows you to do this because it's basically resolving the address, dynamically. However,
Okay.
from a architecture point, um, this, unless it's absolutely necessary, okay, otherwise it's basically, as a rule, it's something to be avoided. Okay,
Okay.
and also it will be very difficult for you to debug if such relation exists in your code. Okay, should there be a problem? Okay, that's like the first high level feedback. And
Okay.
specifically, I think we talked about this last time, where you have to really think about like which concept does this belong to. Like the matcher concept, it's actually a PubSub concept, right? Okay,
Okay.
like matcher exists at the level because there's a PubSub mechanism, right? And you're trying
Yeah.
to basically it's a broker, right? And it's matcher
Yeah.
for the matching up the publication with the subscriptions. So it actually should be one layer above the network layer. You
Mm,
see?
okay. Yeah.
Okay, that does that make sense?
So you have
Uh,
the nodes and the matcher
yeah, well, basically what I'm trying to say
above.
is within the connector IO object, okay,
Yeah.
you can have send and receive and initialize and all that. That's fine.
Okay.
However, when you are sending something, the concept should be more or less, sending to a node, to an address, to a, to an IP port peer, right? Or to a node ID, but not to a matcher. You see?
Okay. Okay.
Does that make
I see.
sense?
I see what you mean.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
The concept of the
Okay.
matcher, I would suggest to remove, from the connector IO. Okay.
Oh, okay.
You see?
So
Okay.
just to, in this case, then, in a when I'm making like a simulation, for example, I'm initializing this like as a separate node with a certain maybe IP and address,
Exactly.
and
You can
then
do that.
this is
Yeah.
connecting X to Y, basically,
Right. Like
not
you can
to match up.
initialize a matcher object, right, with a certain IPM port, and you can put that through the connector IO, which is fine. You
Okay.
know, like actually, I would suggest within the connector IO, you should have another function called connect, right?
Yes.
Which
Yeah.
initialize a connection from this node to a remote node, which can be the matcher, for example. You see?
Okay.
And then you can even put a predefined node ID. Let's say 1, right? Like maybe you reserve the first ID for the matcher to represent a particular IP port peer. That's perfectly fine. And then subsequently, whenever you want to send to the matcher, you send to node 1, for example.
Okay. Okay.
See?
Okay.
But within the connector IO, it should not have any logic or concept, related to matcher.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
that
Okay.
clear?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I see what you mean.
Okay.
I think one of the things we sort of discussed was it was a bit difficult to visualize because I think I wasn't thinking of it from a networking perspective. So one of the things I was looking into was like actually virtual environments with
Right. It's
or
fine, but I think it's the concept. Okay.
okay.
I mean, try to differentiate like what's the conceptual aspects. What should this be, and which layer should this be? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that's the first feedback, and let me make sure this is understand. Okay, it's understandable.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And the second feedback is when you are I think this you are sending to IP, and also like say a channel name, right, a channel name and a message, but I I'm not sure. Okay, I would suggest that it can be simplified to just like ID and message. you know
Okay.
Channel name is probably something you want to have at the layer above that as well. You see?
Okay.
I mean, actually, yes, it's true. It's also doable, I think, that you put a channel name at the network
Okay.
level. Okay. But you have to note that when you do that, okay, you are essentially putting the responsibility of channel matching to the network layer, as opposed to the pop sub layer, which should be one layer above it.
Okay.
But Victor, do you see
Oh,
what I'm saying?
okay. Okay. So I'm sort of sketching a diagram where basically there's like two layers on top, and just under it there's the connector, which is this. But then the exchange of information happens above that. It's just uh, it's, it's basically like an inter. Okay, it's an interface. I see. I see. I think.
Exactly. Because one of the questions, try to think about this way. Okay. Right now we're doing channel-based pop sub, right? So it's
Yes.
easy to specify like a string for the channel, right?
Yeah.
And you know where this is forwarding to. However, um, if this is like a spatial pop sub,
Mm,
right? In place of the channel name, it will be some kind of an area definition. For example, a circle or a rectangle, right?
yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And you see, I don't think you don't want to put that as part of the send, right? because that inherently implies that the send function should know about where to forward this
Okay.
according to the the space, the area, or whatever. You see?
Okay.
Do you see what I'm saying?
I see what you mean. Basically, we're basically creating like a class that has, open connection. There's like a sense of open, connect, receive, and then close, something like that.
Yes, something like that. Well, connect, close, that's a pair, right? Send and
Mm,
receive, that's another
Send,
pair.
receive.
Yeah.
Okay.
But for the send and receive, the concept should probably just be node ID and also the message, right?
Okay.
And for the
Mm,
open and close, well, open you can use IP port, right, to open in exchange for a
mm,
node ID, or and you assign a node ID depending on how you want to do that, right?
mm.
And when you close, you use you're closing a node ID, right?
Okay.
You can think of it as just like a handler, right?
All right. Um. Okay, so I see. So basically, this is like a fixed file, something that should never change.
Ah, right.
So
Well, yes. Well, it should be something very simple, like
very simple.
really, really simple. It only does message sending and queuing up the
Mm,
received message, right? And then returning the queue message one message at a time to whatever receive handler that is
Okay.
processing the message, right?
Okay. Um.
Okay, does that make sense?
Okay. I see. I see what you mean. I see. Message send. Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
all
Uh,
right.
uh,
Okay, so yeah, I hope this doesn't make you too frustrated, but
no, no, no. It does. It
yeah,
doesn't. I
okay,
think the more we thought about the project, the more it actually got complex. So we
okay,
try to
okay,
keep it
nice.
simple.
Okay, yes, right. So
Just
yes, keep it simple is easier to comprehend, right? To understand, to implement, and also to debug. Okay, you want to
okay.
have simplicity like everywhere. So, all right. So for tomorrow, I think
Mm,
just very simply rewrite the whole. Well, try to rewrite the thing with the new concepts, right? Try to remove the matcher from the network layer, the connector I/O.
okay.
Okay, and simply simplify the connector I/O. I think that's the basic next step.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
but again, maintain the same functions. Okay, so make sure the results are the same.
Mm, that's fine.
Okay.
That at least that sort of helps that the matching sequence is sort of done.
Right,
So
right, right. You have the right sequence. It's just that how it's actually been done. I think should some revision is needed. Also, this will help when you are converting to a physical network.
Mm.
Okay,
Yes, exactly.
and also when you convert this to not just channel but also spatial pops up.
Okay.
Okay.
That's fine. That's fine.
All right.
All right.
Okay. So I think that's the main step. And if if you still have some time, then I think the next part is probably okay. Um, okay. I think yeah. I think if you got that right, the matchup um, should be in place now.
Mm,
So okay. I think the next step will be to try to have multiple nodes, that can move. Okay, that can
okay.
do more than one step. But try to fix this part first. Okay, make sure that the first few nodes are correctly published and subscribed.
Okay.
And the next step is to think about how you can do more than one step. Right now you have just a single simulation step, right?
Shinyan. Sorry,
Yes, yes. Okay.
I didn't get that. You said
Oh,
right now I have a
yeah.
single.
No. Well, just try to fix that. Okay, for now. Okay.
Okay. All
And
right.
okay, I think I can maybe we can talk about that tomorrow. Okay.
All right.
Uh, the next step is to try to move the nodes, allow them to have more than one action.
Okay.
Okay.
No, that's
Yeah.
no,
All right,
no
but
problem.
let's do it one at a time. Okay. So,
No problem. You never know. Maybe you can
yeah. All
want to
right.
do 5 or
Okay.
6.
So is that all right?
Yes, that's
Okay.
perfect.
All right.
Thank you
Okay. Good.
so much.
So let's talk tomorrow then. All right.
All right, it is.
Okay. All
Thanks,
right.
Shinyo.
So thanks. Yeah. Thanks. Good luck, Victor. Yeah. Bye bye.
Bye.